Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789.
What's going on, everyone? It's your man, Kalen Lagos, a.k.a. Senor Wapo, and welcome to the latest and greatest and best edition of Society Now, right here on the Sphere.tv. Listen, we are super excited that you're able to come in with us, that you're able to listen to what we got going on. We talk real talk, right? No fake news over here. We're not part of the fake news media. We're not... We give hashtag facts, and we give it to you from a perspective that's real, that's relatable, and that's relational. And I'm certainly excited that you've chosen to join us. Do me a quick favor, though. Go to Instagram, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, and follow me. Sígame at Senor Wapo 713. That's SENORGUAPO 713. I have a phenomenal, just really cool person next to me right here. I certainly appreciate her coming on. Tell them who you are, baby.
Oh, my goodness. Well, my name is Kira Laws, and you can follow me at the Modern Day Cindy. That's Cindy with an I, not a Y, on Instagram. Now, what's going on today?
Listen, we are in the building. We have been traveling. Thank you guys for being patient with us. We've been all over this country handling some business, but we're back and we're ready to rock and roll. And when you go away, and you kind of, have a little separation, you make sure you come back with a heavy hitter, with an uppercut. Like, so in boxing, right, they say once you come out of the break of the round is when you should come the hardest, right, because there was a break in between. We had a break in between, and I tell you, we have a Tyson uppercut of a person here with us today. We have a heavyweight. We have a heavy hitter, a giant, even though she's like 2'7".
Oh, okay.
I love you, Mila. And so her name is Mila Buckley. Mila, how are you?
I am so good and so happy to be talking to you guys.
Thank you for accepting the call. Just a little bit about everyone. She's a phenomenal content creator. Matter of fact, that's not good enough.
Yeah,
she's
she's
a digital storyteller. I love that line.
I feel like I need to use that. Why would you just throw that out there in the atmosphere?
Yeah, that's her literal 9-to-5 title. No, it's not anymore. It's something else. But she's a digital storyteller. She's a blogger extraordinaire. She's a content creator. She's a wife. She's an entrepreneur. I tell you, man. You like, how many heads are you Medusa? How many heads for these hats do you have? I don't understand.
I gotta hide them all. I gotta hide them.
I love it. I love it. So Mila's here talking with us. And you have this brand, this phenomenal brand. It's very interesting. It's almost niche, but not really, but because of the way that you approach it, and I love it. It's the Hangry Woman. Right?
Anybody been hangry before?
Hangry. So
what is hangry?
First of all, who is the Hangry Woman? Let's start there.
Yeah, so that's me, Mila Clarke Buckley. I am the Hangry Woman, and I actually have a funny story about how this name started. Because of course, like when you've got your spouse is always going to make fun of you. They're
Yeah.
always going to tell you how it is. And my husband and I were going to dinner one night, and I was rushing him. I was like, let's get out the door. We need to get to this restaurant. I am starving. Like, we need to go. And so he told me, like, you're a hangry woman. I was like, what is that? And he was like, you get real angry when you want some food. Like, you are totally hangry. And it just stuck. Like, it just became something that we both thought was so funny. And I loved it as a blog name when I decided to start my blog.
Yeah, that's amazing how organically it came about. You know what I'm saying? My tagline is the same way for my brand. The tagline, actually, my wife and I, we were just talking and she said it, and I was like, wait a minute. Whoa. That was hot. That's dope. I got to keep that. You know what I'm saying? How it organically fits. I love that story. When you're married to the right person, they really can kind of push you in odd ways, right? To where you want to be and kind of really support you and help you. I love that. So hangry means am I correct in my assumption that hangry means angry and hungry at the same time?
It totally does. You are 100% right.
Okay, so I guess I'm hangry too, then, baby. Am I hangry? I'm a hangry man. Absolutely. Yeah. I guess I'm a hangry man. Well, so tell us about your journey to your diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, and actually what type 2 diabetes really is.
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first. So
okay.
Type 2 diabetes is a chronic illness where your body is insulin resistant. So insulin is usually what regulates your blood sugar. It's what your body produces to make sure that you're staying in a good range. And when you're type 2 diabetic, your body doesn't use insulin properly. It doesn't work in your body the way that it should. And so that insulin resistance will skyrocket your blood sugar and then can lead to all of these other complications if it's not managed. And that usually happens over time. But I, for a long time I was just really fatigued all the time. I was so hungry, starving no matter how much I ate. I was thirsty no matter how much I drank. And for a while I thought okay, maybe it's just stress. I'm doing 20 things at once. I probably just need to slow down and take a little breather and kind of realign and recenter myself. And for a while, I kept having the same symptoms over and over and over. And so finally I said, okay, probably about time for me to go to the doctor and see what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I go and I get all of these tests done. And as soon as I leave the doctor's office, maybe 20 minutes later, I get a call. And it's from the doctor's office. And they told me, you need to make an appointment with a doctor immediately because we need you to come back right now. And they never tell you that unless, so in my head, I'm thinking what's wrong with me? What happened? Where is this going? And so finally, when I, got a chance to go back a couple of days later, they told me, well, you have type 2 diabetes. And so here's some medicine, change your diet, exercise more. We want to see you back in 3 months. And that's all the information that I left the doctor's office with. And when you get a diagnosis like that, you want more. You want to know, what is it that I'm supposed to do? How am I supposed to handle this? What are the resources that I can use to live a better life? And so in true millennial fashion, I went to Google and I typed in literally how to deal with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
And, because that wasn't the information that I got from my doctor. I was thrown all this terminology and all of this stuff. And I was I don't even know what to do with this. And so when I looked, I couldn't find any resources that were a real person living with it in the day to day. It was all medical, it was all pharmaceutical, academic, but there was nobody just talking about the practical side of type 2 diabetes. And then that very simple terminology that can kind of get you through so you understand what's happening.
Right.
And so I decided at that point, it's if I can't find it, I'm going to start it. I'm going to do it and talk about it. And that kind of led to where it is now.
Listen, I love it, man. You said a few key things. Number one, you used Google. I look, shout out to you for that, because that's the resource that's readily available. Sometimes we look at our medical professional, our healthcare professionals, and we want all the answers. But shout out to you and kudos to you for being having the wherewithal and the intestinal fortitude to push past the original shock and say, okay, what's going on? How do I deal with this? Because I can only imagine. Matter of fact, I can't imagine, the kind of headspace that you were in and only getting so much information. Because, I was talking to my mother the other day, and she was telling me about some things that she has going on. But she said, and I quote, but they didn't call me back the same day, so I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? And so I have context for what you were saying regarding them calling back the same day and say, get here ASAP. So your blog, I guess your moniker or tagline or what you have really going on, you're pushing is traveling with type 2 diabetes. Tell us more about that and why that's necessary.
Yeah, so through my blog, I am always trying to show people that, like, a couple things. I think, one, that you shouldn't feel stigmatized by type 2 diabetes. You shouldn't feel like you should be ashamed of it. You shouldn't feel embarrassed by it. It's not your fault. It's something that happens to happen to you, and it's manageable, and it's something that I think people need to know, because when you get that diagnosis with very little information, it's scary. And I've talked to so many people who've been like, I left the doctor's office and I literally had no idea what to do, and then I stumbled upon your blog and I felt like I had some way forward and I had something that I could do. And I think the other thing is that you can live a completely normal and healthy life living with type 2 diabetes, and you don't have to limit yourself. And so one of the things that I love showing people is that, like, yes, it's an illness that you have to really take care of. You really have to manage it. You have to be on your game at all times, but everything else that you want to do in your life, you can still do. And traveling is one of those things for me that I just love to do. Like, I love to go to a new place. I love it when the wheels go up on the plane and I can land somewhere else in a couple hours. And so I love talking about how to manage your diabetes while you're on the road, because you might not necessarily have all the same resources you have at home, but you can totally take like a mini version of everything you've got at home with you on the road and still have a completely normal vacation, normal trip, and still have fun without feeling like you're being held back or held down by like what you have.
Yeah, that's amazing. You talked about resources, and one resource that I think that's critical that we all must maintain is our financial resources. And as such, this portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the U.S. offer financial education? 33% or more than 77 million Americans don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they do not have enough savings. Please don't become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email us at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Now, ask how you can participate in a complimentary, that means free, financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services. You know, Mila, you were talking about those resources. So what kind of resources, like, I guess twofold. This is off the beaten path, but what kind of resources would you typically have if you were home, and what would you need, I guess, when you're traveling?
Yeah, I think so. When you're at home, you kind of have everything at your disposal. And when I first started managing my type 2 diabetes, like, I didn't have a meter that was digital. So I had to log all of my numbers in a Google spreadsheet to understand my patterns. I didn't have like something as simple as like a carrying case to just take essentials with me that I knew that I could drop in my bag or that I could have with me at all times in case of an emergency. So I think looking for those basics is something that's really important. And then going back to technology, if you can find an app or a piece of technology that's going to help you minimize one step that you have to do during the day, I think that's an incredible way forward. That's something that you can use to make your life a little easier, because it's always going to be a little difficult with type 2 diabetes, but you can use resources and apps to kind of track your blood sugars, to understand patterns, to print them out for your doctor so that you can just hand them over. You don't have to hand them like a journal and have them look through the patterns. And so it just makes you work a little bit smarter and not work harder, which I always love. I love to save time. So anything that helps save time is like perfect in my book.
I totally agree. Time is literally money. So, we live in Houston, right? This beautiful megalopolis, third largest city in the world, in the country, one of the top 10 largest cities, top 20 largest cities in the world. Like, we're here. But one thing we're world renowned for those of you who aren't here and aren't really aware, we're world renowned for our restaurant scene. Like, our restaurant scene is second to none. The cuisine here is, oh my gosh, it is amazing. But how does that translate when you're type 2 diabetic? How do you manage that? Like because what limitations exist?
Yeah, I think so. The first thing for me is I always go in with a perspective that I'm not going to deprive myself of what I want. So if I want something, I'm going to get it, but I'm going to be smart about it. And so, knowing that, like, obviously we live in America, portions are gigantic here. When you get a plate of food, I mean, literally take half of it off of your plate, pack it up, and take it home with you because it is way more than you need to eat typically. And you can save that for breakfast or the next day and be absolutely fine. I think the other thing is that, like, I really try to pick out places or meals that are going to fit within my diet. Like, I know that if I've had high blood sugars for a week, I'm probably not going to go to a dessert place. Like, I'm going to choose wisely to make sure that my meals just match up with how I'm doing and what my progress looks like. But for the most part, like, I still enjoy tons and tons of restaurants around Houston. One of the things that I love writing about on my blog is like places where you can get a healthy meal that's incredibly delicious. So you don't have to really like skip out on those things that you want, and you don't have to skip out on restaurants that you really want to dine at. You can still have those things, but just being mindful about like the portion size, being mindful about what's actually on your plate, and asking questions of the restaurant. That's one big thing that I don't think people realize that they can do. If you go somewhere, you can ask like, hey, how do you make this? Do you fry it? Do you bake it? Do you put it in butter? What kind of oils do you use? And they'll tell you, and it'll give you a really good idea of what you're eating and what that makeup of your plate looks like.
That's a very great tip. My wife actually does that. Before we got together, I'd never seen anybody do that. Like I used to be like, wait, what? Why are you asking? What? Because my wife is very health conscious. I was health conscious in terms of activity because I'm a former athlete, so I was always working out, but I ate what I wanted. The whole portion size thing, you should see her face right now. The whole portion, like I literally would eat a half a pound of meatloaf.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not even exaggerating. Like it would be so much. I just, I'm not the smallest guy, but I'm not a huge guy either. And I was eating as if I was still competing, right? When I was still running track and playing these sports, and my metabolism was that fast. It really wasn't. Even when I was competing, I should not have been eating those portion sizes. So I think that's critical. That's really, really key because we're spoiled here. Like when you travel, you realize how spoiled we are. We went to Spain for our honeymoon and they was giving us food and I'm like, what? Yeah. So where's the rest of it?
Yeah, you're like, this is like the tapas portion, right? Like,
Yeah.
Where's my whole dinner?
Yeah. This is the top. Like, no. Wait, wow, this is a third. I didn't know this was gonna be 4 courses to this meal. Oh no, sir, this is the only course. Wait, what do you mean? So it was kind of a shell shock. So give us some more tips about how to eat healthy on the go.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love to do is I think about my plate as a pie chart. And so half of my plate is always a vegetable of some sort, like a non-starchy vegetable. Could be broccoli, could be cauliflower, it could be like a legume, like green beans. So I always try to put some color on my plate and make sure that a whole entire half of it is just those vegetables, because that's going to cut down on your carbohydrates, which is going to in turn lower your blood sugar, which is a good thing. It keeps it like on a steady level. And then I think about the other half of my plate in terms of good carbohydrates. So things like quinoa are really good. Barley is really good. Anything that's like a complex carbohydrate will really help to fill you up. And then those are good carbs that break down slowly over time. So they're also not going to spike your blood sugar. And then the other portion I think of as just my protein portion. So that could be any type of protein that I want. Fish, could be pork, could be beef, anything that I feel like that day goes into that section. And so I structure my plate like that. And I do that at restaurants too. Like if I get a meal, I'm going to take it and kind of visualize for myself, okay, this is how I think that it should look. And then I separate out those portions so that I definitely have like a good handle on what I've eaten. And then the other thing too is like, compensate with exercise. Like you obviously can't exercise away a bad diet. So like you can't go and eat like 5 cheeseburgers and then say, I'm going to go for a run.
Right.
You have have that good balance. But if, like, one of the things that I do, if I feel like maybe I overate a little bit, or maybe I had that extra bite of dessert that I shouldn't have had, I'll go and I'll take a walk around the neighborhood. I'll go walk my dogs for a little bit, or I'll go do some kind of activity where I can burn off those carbohydrates, and then I'm not going to have that severe blood sugar spike after I eat.
That is amazing information for our amazing audience, including our Facebook Live audience. And we want to talk to you real quick and ask that you subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher, and review our show in iTunes with constructive feedback. Share this Facebook Live post and the entire show with your family and friends, and donate to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. We need your coin. We need it. So make sure, Facebook Live, we appreciate you guys. We love you all so much. Make sure you go and hit subscribe on the website so that you can catch the rest of this show, because we still got some more digging in we're going to be doing here with Mila Clarke excuse me, Buckley. I can't talk. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm getting over a cold. But we'll see you guys soon. So Mila, let's keep it pushing, right? You know, poor communities of color are often hit harder with diminished food choices, right? We see that. I mean, this is part of the work that you do at your 9 to 5. But what can we do to combat this?
Yeah, I think, the thing about communities of color at times, or low income communities, is that there's not enough investment. There's not giant grocery chains going into these neighborhoods and saying, these are the people who need this food the most. They're going to areas where they know that they'll make money. And so it leaves out the people who really are important and who really need like this nutrition more than anyone else. And so, especially in Houston, what I would say is look for organizations that support areas that are in food deserts. Some of my favorites are Planet Forward, which trains and supports refugees to operate their own urban farms. And so they grow fresh produce in the city limits of Houston. And they're able to, one, make a good living by selling their fresh produce at different farmers markets and to the community. And then two, it gives those communities an opportunity to have fresh produce that they don't otherwise have, or that they have to go way outside of their neighborhoods to get. So those organizations are so important, and the support for them are really important because it just benefits the whole community and it helps everyone that is living in that space. And then the other thing that I would say is I would just call on businesses to really understand these areas and don't write them off.
Yeah.
Like, consider them as a place where investment is worthy and where a difference can be made. Because if just one grocery chain, came into, say, like Fifth Ward or Third Ward and really made that investment, and I think we're seeing like some in Third Ward, like I think there's an Aldi there now that
Right.
wasn't there before, and there's like a little HEB, but I think really like those grocery stores and those businesses taking a look at those communities and saying, hey, well, this is worthy of investment. This is where we need to be. And we are helping communities really thrive by existing there. I think we would see such a huge difference in the way that people were given access to food.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think another thing that's really critical and it's a great opportunity is two things. Well, I guess a part A and a part B. It's grow your own, right? Like if you live somewhere where you have a backyard, or you have access to space where you can grow your own, and then come together as a community members to create a community garden.
A community garden, or even figure out ways to create your own little farmers market.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not a lot of farmers markets, and like you mentioned, in the hood, it's always you have to go to different places, and a lot of times people don't have the transportation to get to those places. So we have to consider that as well. And I know you mentioned about the stores, and I think I read an article a while back. It talked about how could government entice bigger food chains to come into these areas. What type of tax packages and tax incentives could they give them? Because it's not that the people don't have the resources to pay. It's more so I guess it's just not enticing to bring, I guess, the level of food. So I think this is a partnership of having the food available and the education as well, because we do know, like our grandparents and things like that, they would eat greens and collard greens and things like that. But I think somehow we shifted in generations where things became so more attractive to have canned goods because canned goods were less expensive, but also they're not as fresh.
Right.
And so we have to think about what comes when you start pushing the canned goods into the community.
That happened in the 50s.
Right. Pushing the ease into the community, the ease of use, right? Saying you're going to save money, but it's not necessarily completely healthy. I'm not saying all canned goods are bad, but we have to consider that these things are processed foods,
Right.
and they're meant to stay on the shelf, not like fresh vegetables where we know that they're going to break down. So it's something to consider.
So, you're absolutely right. You know, when industrialization happened in the boom in the 50s of the factories, right? This is when processed food started happening because people were able to, people were able to save the money. They were able to, women were getting in the workplace in the 50s, 40s and 50s because of the war, right? And so there was nobody at home to tend to the vegetables.
Yeah.
And so that was a really big fallout regarding industrialization, post-war industrialization. And so, you're 100% right. And that is a phenomenal. Give us that organization one more time. I'm gonna write that one down. Mila.
They're called Plant It Forward.
Plant It
okay,
Forward.
I love it. Plant It Forward. That's
Is
dope.
it .com, .gov, or just Plant It Forward? We'll just Google it.
Yeah.
We'll
Yes,
just
you
put
Google it, you'll
put on my millennial hat and Google it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next for the Hangry Woman? Tell us, what's next for the Hangry Woman?
For me, it's all about diabetes advocacy, especially just educating people on the differences between the different types of diabetes, and also just really making sure that there's no shame and no stigma in the way that people feel about type 2 diabetes. When I first started my blog, I mentioned I couldn't find a single resource of a real person talking about type 2 diabetes because no one wanted to talk about it. People were afraid and they didn't want to be labeled. They didn't want to be judged, and they didn't want it to be this thing that really labeled their entire lives. And I'm a little bit shameless, so I didn't care, but I want more people to feel like I feel. I want more people to know that you can live an entirely normal and healthy life with that diagnosis. You can manage it, and you can be a healthy and productive human being. And especially when you're educated about it, it makes a complete difference. So that's really what's on deck for me, is just more of that advocacy and teaching people how it's manageable and really how to live with it in the day to day.
And I love that. I think that's amazing. I'm glad you took on this platform and also to just educate people. Because for me, I know when we met, I told him one of the things, the reason why I ate the way I ate and did some of the things I did was because one part of my side of my family was predisposed for diabetes. The other part was for heart disease. And I was like, for me, I was like, when you know better, you do better. I could at least try to be preventative, right? Get ahead of it
on the front end.
I was like, I'm not better than anyone, but I'm like, but if you're going to be in my life, understand that that's just how I choose to live my life, and I can't feel bad about that. So
yeah, no, for sure. And it was really easy for me to transition in some of the things that we did differently because I led a relatively healthy lifestyle prior to. Just really what I changed mostly were my eating habits. Some of the things that I ate in the portion control. Still got to pray for me with this sweet tooth. I'm yet holding on. This sweet tooth, that thing got me about a week.
Well, we're going to pray and we're going to rebuke that thing because they say sugar's the cousin of cocaine. So
yeah, no doubt.
Listen, we all can do better with the sugar. We all can, because
Everybody
sugar
can.
is laced in so many different things. I mean, I was just eating this Halls and I tasted the sweetness in the Halls. I'm like, come on now. Can we just get Halls?
Yes. And everything. I mean, and that's one big thing that I learned with having type 2 is I couldn't even take regular cough medicine because regular cough medicine is literally all sugar.
All sugar.
Yeah, I mean, so it's insane just how it's really just intertwined into everything that we eat, and you barely notice it. It's crazy.
I'm gonna tell you who does notice the sugar.
Listen, who?
Dr. Joe F. Eckford, aka our dentist,
and who else?
And Elite Dental Wellness. In fact, they're sponsoring this portion of the show. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are a part of our family. Now, dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Batiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure that your comfort. Make your appointment today. with Dr. Ashandra Batiste at Elite Dental Wellness by calling 713-789-8680. I tell you, I'm super excited that you're living out loud with this, because I have a cause that I'm passionate about, and I don't live out loud as I should, but I know everything about it, and that's in terms of organ donation. And, I'm an organ donor, and I donated to my mother back in 2007, and so I do I guess live out loud the fact that you can do anything with one kidney.
Right, for sure you do. I mean, and I think that goes back to her platform.
Right.
It's almost like, let's not look at some of the things that we do as disabilities.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that having type 2 diabetes, or being an organ donor, or a recipient of organs, or whatever that looks like, it's not meant to slow down your life process when you're educated and you have the information that you have. If anything, we should be encouraging people to try to live as full of a life as possible. I think the information is out there. So, so you saying you're not living out loud, I think it's more so because it has not slowed you down.
Yeah,
so maybe
no,
so that's the platform. I guess
has.
the conversation just shifts to more of a, whatever you're dealing with, if you take it on with responsibility, with healthy habits and things like that, it doesn't have to slow you down at all. So I love this platform with the Hangry Woman. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really
so cute.
It's super cute.
It's so cute. I know, I don't know if you want to be called cute, but it's cute because it's like you said, hungry and angry. People can relate to that.
Yes.
People get very frustrated when they're angry. I mean, when they're hungry, and then and understanding that was for you a trigger, or that was for you a sign that something wasn't right. So that's something that's a conversation probably a lot more people need to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of transition for a second,
okay?
And talk about some things that's going on here in this country. Let's talk to Kira's favorite person, our current celebrity in chief, and his staff, and let's tell him, no, Donald, you can't do that. And what do I mean? A federal judge restores Jim Acosta's White House press credentials. So I'm not sure if you're aware, of those of you who are watching in Mila, but Jim Acosta, who was working for CNN, he was asking some tough questions to President Trump about a week ago concerning the election, and Trump didn't like it. He got pissed off, he got upset, and he had his press credentials revoked from the White House. He can no longer come to the White House and do any kind of anything because he couldn't get in. Well, a judge has intervened and said, no, this is this man's job. You cannot hinder him from doing his job. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't break any law. He wasn't unethical. He actually asked questions that you may not have liked, but get over it. And answer the questions, or don't answer the questions, but you can't revoke that. I guess my question, and I would love to hear your perspective on this, Mila. My question is, I wonder, if I would even want to go back to that kind of environment after this.
I feel like I would thrive in that environment. I would come 20 times harder, because it's like, okay, you say you want to revoke my credentials, you want to get rid of me. No, that's not happening. And I'm so happy that judge restored his credentials. And I thought that it was really interesting too, of all other news sources, that Fox News actually backed CNN and said, we actually don't think that this is right. And obviously because it could affect one of their reporters in the future. But it was just interesting to see that solidarity in journalism when it's such a weird time where people just don't trust each other and people don't trust news sources, and then to see them kind of band together in that moment was really interesting. But yeah, I feel like I would be running back into that situation, ready to go.
And I agree with you. I think the whole band together as journalists, what they noticed was okay, we can't have this run afoul on our freedom of speech, our freedom of press, right. And if this is allowed, then it can actually boomerang and come right back to us. And so that conversation of okay, yes, you might be upset, but we cannot allow this to happen. I think that's really good that they, at that point, they showed solidarity, and anything that's going to prevent the ability for someone to actually ask questions, regardless of the discomfort, right, of the question. Let's go ahead and allow that, because that's what the press are there for. That's what they're there for. They're there to get information, and you cannot call something fake news if you don't let people ask and get clarity. Yeah. So so it's interesting to see how that definitely unraveled. Another thing that's been going on in the news, and I don't know if you've been following this, but we've seen a lot of, I mean, especially in the past, I feel like the past month or so, but even the past year, we've seen a lot of mass shootings, a lot of things that have happened over this year. I mean, last year in Vegas was major, but we've been seeing a lot of mass shootings. And I saw the statistic, and I thought it was really interesting. It said 154 mass shootings occurred this year, not one of them committed by a black man or illegal alien, right? Not one of them. 154. Not one of them committed by a black man or illegal alien. But yet we have seen a lot of unarmed black persons and unarmed Latinos shot and killed based upon just, not necessarily from reasonable suspicion, but because they happen to be who they were. Just recently we heard about Jamel Robinson, who was a security guard who was saving someone's life, saving a lot of people's lives, and he was trying to prevent a shooting from occurring, and the police officers came and didn't ask questions and killed him. That is tragic. We also saw what happened in Dallas, Texas, where Botham Jean was killed by a police officer there, and he was rightfully in his apartment. It's a lot of things happening where we're trying to figure out what is the pulse of America right now, where we can't really justify some of the negativity that's going on in the world. What do you think about all that?
It's so interesting to me that like the world is shifting in this way. And like, I mean, like thinking back to the election in 2016, like I would have never, ever in my wildest imagination thought that Donald Trump would become president.
Neither did I.
Yeah,
I am floored.
Yes. And then the degree to which he's unraveling so much progress is fascinating to me, because it's one man. I mean, like, and obviously he's got his hands in all arms of government, but like, he is basically like revoking people's freedoms and contributing to this labeling of Black and brown people as like anti-establishment people, and these are the people that are doing everything wrong, and they're coming to your country to take your jobs and, take away everything that you have earned. And it's like one of the things that like boggles my mind is like how people even believe that. Like, how can you like watch somebody say that and then think like, oh yeah, that's fully true, like everybody else is the enemy, and so it's just like that narrative and how it's playing out and how things like the climate is just in the country right now. It seemed like we were making so much progress for 8 years. Like things were actually happening. People were getting these freedoms, getting health insurance coverage, not being denied for pre-existing conditions, like getting things that were a sign and a track of progress. And then it seems like that is all just going backwards.
I think you're totally right. And I think that it really is unfortunate, because now here we are, 10 years later, 2 years post our last administration, and we're just seeing so much, we're seeing what happens on the other side of no progress, right? When there's no progress, what's happening? And it's just very evident that this administration has shifted a lot of things that people were really looking forward to seeing continued growth, and it seems like it's changed tremendously, drastically. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know that in Dallas, Texas, with that Botham Jean case, the new DA who was just elected is seeking charges against the cop there, because he said, as of him taking that office, he wants to see some answers. And I think that was something that they were hoping was not going to go forward. So that's progress, that he's seeking charges, because I think they were trying to, and they being whomever, we're trying to find ways to not charge the police officer. But unfortunately, we can't continue to have officers walk away from legitimately, hurting, harming, killing people when normal people could not walk away from that. So I think there has to be some fairness and equity on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
There has to be fairness and equity. Another thing that's interesting, and this is in your hangry woman area. Two things. Tiffany Haddish. Now, this is kind of old but new. Tiffany Haddish actually signed a deal back in March, but we're just now learning about this, that she has her own seasoning salt from Larry's. I think that's funny.
I love it.
I think it's funny.
It's awesome.
I
Like
think,
all the stuff that she's doing is so like hilarious. Like when she told that Groupon story about like her and Jada Pinkett Smith on
yeah,
Ellen, and
yeah.
then she gets like a deal with Groupon. I'm just like, you go, girl. Like that's perfect.
She is one of those people that we can learn a lot from Tiffany Haddish because she is maximizing her 15 seconds or 10 seconds. She's maximizing and she's pushing it to the max. And I think that's something we need to learn from her. We need to all learn how to maximize our moments so we can actually benefit from times. Another thing that's happening, and this is going to affect Thanksgiving for many people, but it's a deadly salmonella outbreak that's forcing the USD to recall raw turkey. It's happening right now.
Oh, right at Thanksgiving.
Right at Thanksgiving. So this is happening right now. This salmonella outbreak is happened. They're saying that all the raw turkey needs to be removed off of shelves. That's including, yes, your bird for Turkey Day. Now, how does that affect everyone? I was talking to Kaylin and I said, what does that mean? What are we cooking for Thanksgiving? He was like, I guess chicken. So, unless it's fixed by Thanksgiving Eve, most people should be eating chicken because you might not be able to find any turkey on the shelves.
Seriously. You might be trading for some ham or something.
And listen, if you're into that, or you might just have a vegan Thanksgiving, and that might be something that
could be good.
It could be
A good
tasty.
Thanksgiving.
It definitely
all
could
sides.
be.
I would do it all sides Thanksgiving. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. And what also is going to be amazing is how people just advertise to actually get their businesses off the ground during the season too. And one of the ways we do that is right here at the Sphere. So this portion of our show is sponsored by the Sphere TV. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at the Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States, as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Again, the number is 832-772-7789 or email us at advertise@thesphere.tv. Yeah, it's important. People start doing that Black Friday stuff early. So if you want to get that ad placement going, you definitely want to do it here at the Sphere. Now, what else is going on in the news? There's a lot of interesting things going on in the news. I know you probably heard about all the recounts that were asked for in Georgia, in Florida. And right now, the recount for Andrew Gillum in Florida, people are saying that he needs to go ahead and concede now because the recount that they've done shows that there's a wide margin between him and the person he was running against, and he could not have won. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think, it's not over till it's over. So until they count every ballot and they certify them all, I think he stays the course. And, when it's finally time, he can concede or not and, move forward. But it's interesting because I feel like Florida is always like in trouble in terms of their vote recall. Like they cannot get it right.
And I was telling someone, I said, it's interesting because, the way this article was written, I thought it was interesting. They called him ungracious for not conceding yet. And I was like, well, it's not that he's ungracious, but like you mentioned, Florida has been known to have some interesting ways when it comes to elections and voter turnout and the Chads and all the stuff that has happened in the past. And so it would seem that he's on the proper course in terms of trying to make sure that every vote is counted. I think it's unfortunate that they're trying to sully him as a political candidate for future things based upon how he's reacted to this situation, because again, Florida is not necessarily known to be the best place for elections. I mean, I don't know. It just hasn't been. And when you look at that happened there, and then of course what's happening right now in Georgia, the same thing with Georgia has the same issue. And I think it's interesting to see how we're fighting for all those votes to count, and I think we have to count every vote, and we cannot allow I guess I'm going to say people to strong arm other people to just concede just because it just came out the first time. You don't fight, just go ahead and get it. So what do you think about that? I mean, the Georgia one is definitely interesting. Stacey Abrams, I'm hoping that she gets to get all those ballots counted.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because like the person she was running against was like he was like somehow involved in the voting, right? Like the certification.
Was he like the
voting.
Secretary of State or something? Like he had an office, like he was high ranking official. Yeah, the Secretary of State. Like he should have sat down. He should not have been. He should have bowed out during that time period. He should have. It was a lot of things he should have done. It just looks questionable. It looks shady, and it just not. I don't think that would happen anywhere else. I'm like, that's just shady. That really is shady. So it just goes to show you that we have to continue to fight, and we being all people continue to fight for fairness across the board, regardless of what's happening. And to that extent, something else that I find it almost as interesting is Ice Cube. I don't know if you heard about this, but Ice Cube actually has a record, and this is almost like we've been here before. He has a record out called Arrest the President. Have you heard about this?
I haven't heard about
Arrest the President. So I feel like we have went back in time 20, 30 years, like back to NWA and stuff like that. But it's called Arrest the President. It's a new track. Even though he doesn't mention our current president's name, everyone kind of can assume that he's talking about our current administration. And people are like, everything he says in the album is hitting all the right notes. He's saying he's citing facts that have occurred since during the actual campaign to now, and he's like, these are things that anybody else would have been arrested for. So I hope that maybe the fact that he doesn't mention his name makes him safe, and I want to pray that he continues to be safe. But I hope that the message is clear that being that we have, especially when it comes to rap music, we have a great cross population of people that really buy into hip hop and rap music, that they're listening to the lyrics that he's saying and understanding that it's much bigger than just a cool song. These are real situations that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And another thing before we kind of leave out this evening, and this is kind of like a circle back moment for us, but we talked about on our last show about the executive from Topshop actually being brought up on charges of sexual assault. Well, because of him being brought up on charges, Beyonce has now cut ties with him. He was a 50% owner of her Ivy Park clothing line. And because of the situation that he did, she decided to cut ties with him because of the accusation. And now her company, Parkwood, now is 100% ownership of her clothing line. So she is taking her Ivy Park brand from underneath Topshop and wholly under Parkwood to, for all the creation, for all the distribution and everything. So I think that's a one clap for Beyonce. That's a one clap for her, because I think that's a strong move that she did. It was important that she did it to show that she is paying attention to what's happening.
Yeah, totally. And, just she's such a role model anyway, but just to know that she has this big stake in her own company, her own creation, and like this is hers now, that's just like another like bow down moment to Beyonce. Totally.
And she is amazing like that. If people that tell me that they don't really like Beyonce like that, I always wonder why. I'm like, who are you? I'm like, who are you that don't like this self-made woman? Like, why don't you like her? What did she do? If anything, she's really given us a blueprint on how to manage your personal and professional affairs and try to stay out of, the mess.
Yeah.
Stay above the fray. She keeps elevating. She keeps giving us more than what we've expected. You know what I mean? Like she challenges her peers even. All her peers are like, she is our role models. So, I'm really proud that she was able to do it. That was a boss move for her to say, hey, we have to cut you off. We're going to do this by ourselves. Yes, it would be great to continue business with you, but we're just not going to do it. I'd rather risk it all. So that's a boss move.
Yeah,
that's a boss move. So shout out to Beyonce for that. For sure, shout out to her for that. Now, finally, we're ending this show on kind of like a sad note, but I wanted to send our condolences to the family of Kim Porter, and her children and the Combs family. I know she was very impactful in a lot of people's lives. She has been around the industry for about 30 years. I was reading some of the notes that were posted about her, about her impact, the things she did, the people she helped behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know that she used to have this thing called 3 Brown Girls, and she did so much for so many people. And it's just amazing to see how the outpouring. And it's even hard when people pass away, when it was not related to anything that you can look for. It's just she was ill and she passed away and she didn't wake up that morning. So it's just sad at such a young age we lost our angel. But we just want to send blessings and prayers to her family, to Sean Combs, because I know he's not taking it well, and to her kids. So that's just a lot for everyone in the entertainment community, to have to deal with. We losing more people. So with that being said, we want to end tonight's show and thank you all for tuning in for another amazing episode of Society Now. Thank you to our beautiful guest, Mila, who was on the show today. She gave us so much knowledge about the hangry woman, type 2 diabetes. She educated us today. She's given us I just feel like I want to sit down and have coffee with her and just talk about, I don't know if she can drink coffee. I can do tea. I do tea really. But have tea with her and talk about how we can just do better as people. But again, my name is Kira Laws. You can follow me on Instagram at the modern day Cindy. That's Cindy with the I, not a Y.
And my name is Kalen Laws. You can follow me on all social media outlets at Senior Wapo 713. That's SENORGUAPO 713. Mila, let them know how they can get in contact with you really quickly.
Yeah, everyone can find me anywhere on the internet at The Hangry Woman. So if you search The Hangry Woman, you'll find me.
Listen, we kicking it with The Hangry Woman. We don't want her to get hangry with us, so we want you to go get you something to eat. Go take care of the hubs. Thank you all so much. We appreciate every one of you for tuning in to us, and we'll see you next time.